We have the professor with us, and Mike Lubie, of course, has stated his position on last night's Dolphin game, angry with all of these social media posts about Brian Flores, which, Professor, I mean, looming very large right now is the fact that you had what appeared to be or sounded like
Right?
an absurd
Can we
conspiracy
get a little,
theory.
like, Lubie's getting angry? Can
Yeah.
we get angry that Stephen Ross and the Dolphins let Ryan fucking Fitzpatrick into the building to spread his lucky charms magic?
Oh my God,
And
you're right.
First fucking time they do it, Tua goes down with a concussion, probably a career ender. Like, how do you let that piece of shit into the fucking building?
Good for you, Ken. I didn't even think about that.
The fucking cops arrest Tyreek Hill, but you let Ryan Fitzpatrick run around the city. Do your fucking job, Miami baby. The minute that fucking Lucky Charms motherfucker showed up in the place, he should have been thrown in fucking prison. Like, the man spent 2 years along with Flores trying to kill Tua. And the first time he shows up, what happens?
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
You're not getting that kind of straightforward analysis from anybody that's on like Fox or PBS. Are you? It's unlikely Romo is going to go ahead and speculate about the fact that how ridiculous it was and blame the Miami police for that loss and the loss of Tua to a concussion. As it did appear that there was, I mean, the longer time passes, the more time that goes by, Louis. I remember how absurd it seemed when the professor first speculated that Brian Flores was a plant from the Patriots to ruin the Dolphins franchise. And then Fitzpatrick comes along, and the two of them together, perhaps in collusion, to go ahead and make sure that this kid never did anything. They wanted to turn him into Bryce Young, for God's sake.
They tried.
Now, we laugh at that because, I mean, it was beyond facetious. It was absurd. It was almost right up there with anything that Trump or J.D. Vance would speculate upon. As I mean, are they really going to go to Springfield, Ohio, and campaign?
I love it.
You got to be kidding me.
Oh, that'd be great.
The latest rhetoric, of course, is that it's Biden's fault that all of these crackpots are trying to take shots at Donald Trump. I mean, overlooking the whole idea that this is a man that's very much made himself a target for all sorts of hatred and negativity. But I mean, he continues to double down on it. Is it really true, Libby? I mean, not to get too deeply into politics here at the start, because I do have some observations on last night's game, which the Eagles managed to lose. Did you see who the defensive coordinator is for the Philadelphia Eagles? And,
yes.
What on earth? Nick Sirianni, I mean, does he really want to lose his job? Is he just fueled by his own desire to get fired? How do you throw that defense out there with no pressure on Kirk Cousins after they pretty much kept the Falcons' offense in check most of the evening? There's a minute and 40-something left to go in the ballgame. The Falcons get the ball. They're down 6. The only thing that can defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't know that this necessarily needs to be taken into consideration by the average sports fan, but since the average sports fan is now a stone-cold degenerate, 6 points was the spread in that game, I believe. It might have gone off 6 and a hook, but I had it at 6 when I made my bold prediction that it would be a very tenuous approach, but go ahead and lay the 6 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Were you wrong, Lubie? Can you sit there and put a gun to your head and say, my God, I can't believe I can't handicap worth of shit? No, you're up 6 with a minute and change to go in a ballgame. And Vic Fangio, a brilliant defensive coordinator. Remember that was the rhetoric before the season last year? Well, you know what? They may have acquired Jalen Ramsey and this guy and that guy, but the biggest acquisition of the Miami Dolphins in the offseason, this is going to propel them right to the Super Bowl, was Vic Fangio. Everybody, and then the defense, not only did it not necessarily measure up, but on top of that, it looked like shit most of the time, and the players hated the guy.
It struggled early, and then remember, it finally started to get its footing, and then it struggled again. The Titans game, I was literally having flashbacks on that last drive to the Titans game when it's like, what are you doing? Send someone.
6 plays and a minute 10 later,
like, dude,
you're down 1.
It's with a rookie quarterback.
What the fuck? Not only are you losing to the point spread, that the Eagles are losing the game. It seemed impossible, right? Supposedly, and these calculations are kind of weird. I'm not sure how much you should relate to these numbers, but supposedly, with 156 left to go in a game, no timeouts, and the Eagles driving and about to possibly put up a game-clinching touchdown and/or what would seem to be a game-icing field goal, the chances of the Falcons winning the game were given at 7%. 7% chance.
Oh God!
But that's like the catchable ball. Do you see those stats for catchable ball? Well, you know what? That play has like a 50% catch rate. No, it doesn't. If the guy dropped it, it's a 0% catch rate, and if he caught it, it's a 100% catch rate. There is no in between, is there, Lubie? Come on.
No.
I mean, you're saying that he should have made the play. Yeah, I understand that, but can you really quantify that with a number? You either caught it or you didn't. That's it.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. So 7% chance of winning the game, and they win the game. Unbelievable. And many people go down to it would have been a pusheroo. The Barkley thing was kind of interesting. You talk about pivotal plays in terms of degenerate outcomes. And Barkley, if he catches that pass, you get the worst of all possibilities. Because if he catches that pass, he probably doesn't go into the end zone. Did you see the end of this game, Lou?
Yes, I watched the. I missed that. I watched the Falcons drive and then the Eagles desperation drive.
Oh gosh, yeah. All right. Well, you saw the good part if you were with the Falcons and the points, which obviously in a week where the underdogs went 9-5-1 against the spread and 8-7 straight up. You probably should have just jumped on that bandwagon and realized that there's a lot. And we talked about this. There's tremendous flip flopping in week 1 and week 2 of the NFL season, and I think you're going to see a real. I mean, you would have to really scour the injury list this week. Because a lot of key players are out for big time teams. San Francisco now going to be without McCaffrey, and Debo is going to be out for several weeks. So they go from looking like in week number 1 when they throttled the Jets, did they not look like they were going to have a nice smooth ride to another NFC Championship game? Then they lose on the road in Minnesota to Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, and in the process, they had managed to make up for the loss of McCaffrey, although you can't completely do that. What's the guy's name? Wilson? Is that Wilson? The guy that replaced him had a big ball game in week number 1 and a very, very
some guy
Mason. Yeah, okay. I know it was something along those lines. Anyway, so sometimes you can plug a guy like you used to say about Julian Edelman, a system player.
I did.
You saw Wes Welker, you saw Edelman, you figured, okay, it's a system, but you have to have a hell of a lot of talent to sometimes make the system work in your favor.
Yes.
Or work your way favorably into the system. In this case, they managed to make up for some of what McCaffrey gives them, but not all of it. And Deebo Samuel, we've seen how much his value is as he was out for a period of time last year. And San Francisco went into the tank. Remember that period where they couldn't win a game? All of a sudden, they were losing like 3-4 in a row. So, definitely going to be a factor in week number 3. And I don't know that we know anything conclusive about the NFL, except that so far from what we've seen of Vic Fangio, might it be Chuck Noll time for this guy? The game has passed him by. Is it possible? How do you allow a team to just chop you up like that in the final minute of a ball game? And they have no timeouts. Completely, they're getting out of bounds on pass plays. They're throwing the ball 15 yards down the middle, running up to the ball and snapping it quickly, getting out of bounds. And they actually scored. One of those deals where they might have scored too early.
Yes, they scored too quick.
Vic Fangio, what the fuck were you thinking?
Look, I get his idea is trusting the defensive line. It allows the back end to have more freedom. But look, what's funny is, as we saw down here, in the Chargers game, when they needed to stop, he brought pressure. It confused Herbert, and they won that game on defensively on the last drive. So it was like, okay, he knew how to do it. And then later in the year, he didn't do it. Like the Titans game was, I texted my buddies, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm having flashbacks to the fucking Titans game. Like, it was like, dude, just bring something. It's a fucking rookie. Like, just bring
one time, throw some pressure.
Like, it's Kirk Cousins,
and you win the game. You knocked his quarterback down for a loss of 7 or 8 yards, and you're really just making it so complex for the Falcons at that stage because the clock's running, and you're gonna essentially clinch the game. You can be a little aggressive in that spot, can you? I mean, has Fangio? He's been in a defensive coordinator outside of the time that he was a head coach. So he had a higher position with the Broncos from 2019 to 21. I think he got fired early in the 21 season. No?
Mhm.
All right. So other than that, though, he's been a defensive coordinator or better since 1995.
Yeah.
It's 19 years as a defensive coordinator and or a head coach, and you can't figure out that this doesn't work? My God, especially a repeat of that disaster that compromised any chance the Miami Dolphins had of doing anything significant last year when they ended up having to go on the road for a playoff game against the Kansas City fucking Chiefs in 12 below zero temperatures.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Look what the Eagles did. In 34 seconds, it was like, oh shit, they only need a field goal. They were moving down the field, and what do the Falcons do? They bring a blitz, and Hurts chucks up a ball and throws an interception. That's what you want to do. You don't want to let guys just sit back there. Like their NFL teams with over 30 seconds can do a lot.
Yes.
Like what?
That was insane. I mean, to lose the game outright, ridiculous. But you're sitting there. At least you had the salvation. Barkley drops the pass. Saquon Barkley comes out of the flat. Now the situation was this. This is how precarious it is, and I'm becoming more and more convinced that betting, especially NFL games, is very much like playing roulette.
Yep.
You just don't know where that. I mean, the ball might hop right out of your number and into the next one, and you're sitting there going, "Oh fuck! It was right there. It was in the 13 black." And you see that thing spinning, and it's one red, and it's the one number you didn't cover, and you're thinking, "Look at that wheel of death just going around." It just keeps spinning, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I lost this thing." But on that one play, the Eagles have the ball. It's like 3rd and 3 or 4. If they get the first down, but they don't get a touchdown, then they're going to take a knee for the next 3 plays, and you lose to the point spread if you were an Eagles backer. If they don't get the first down, they're going to kick a field goal, and which they did, and now they're up 6 points. So you have the spread covered. You get your money back. You have a push. And even though you were sort of off in your handicapping theory, you're still getting out of it without feeling too much pain.
Yeah.
And if he goes in for the touchdown, you're going to win the game. You're going to cover the point spread, and everything's great. So 3 things can happen. Of course, the one that did, at least left you with a little bit of your personal dignity, because you're now up 6, and that puts the Falcons in a position where there's no reason to go for any kind of a field goal. It's not going to be one of those deals where with 2 seconds left, the guy kicks the field goal and figures he's going to get an onside kick and throw a Hail Mary. Fuck that. The only thing that can help them is a touchdown. Yes. And Vic Fangio, literally, Cousins, they were counting Mississippis. The whole game, the guy's doing nothing.
My favorite is when, again, and especially Aikman with Buck, like they're never wants to point anything out. Like Aikman does not.
No, he says nothing.
And Visser Mama loves him, and so we
good-looking guy, speaks okay. I mean, he throws in a couple of things that grammatically really bother me, but that's okay because he was a quarterback and he had it. I mean, talk about concussions, Louis.
Yeah, no, he got hit. But
it's amazing this guy's not speaking in Turkish as he's in the booth.
You like to make fun of him because he's the one that they'll show the replay with the ref, and he's always wrong or
never makes a call, never makes a commitment.
So he's not one to point stuff out, and that's when you know it's bad. When the whole drive, he's like, "Wow, the Eagles are bringing no pressure." I was like, "You're right, Troy. They're not bringing any pressure."
It was 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Remember when you used to count? Did you count Mississippi's? Was that a thing in your day? It was like our Spanish to English or English to Spanish translation of Paco Lopez, right? Paco Lopez. Paco Lopez. But nothing. I couldn't believe it. If you mix in one blitz, you probably win the game.
Yes.
One fucking blitz. How many times have we seen that?
Cousins is coming off an injury and hadn't played that well all game. It wasn't horrible, but like you said, they had 15 points at that time. It's not like they were moving the ball. Like, what do you do? I get it, probably worked all game, but as you know, in the 2-minute drill, things move faster. It changes things. You have to change things, and that was
wide open. I mean, they had all day. Literally, he's standing back there, and I think. I don't know that this is true, that you could have sat back there and completed a couple of passes, but you know what? I wouldn't have bet against it. I guess I'm killing myself. How could you have possibly recommended people that they lay 6 points with the fucking
You had
Eagles?
the Eagles. Oh, I said the Eagles too. I said it on mail before we left. I'm like, Philadelphia and the points. I mean, Philadelphia laying 6. I didn't think twice about it.
It didn't seem unreasonable. I mean, look, it's always tenuous when you're laying points in any sport at this stage of life.
100%.
And the Falcons, they just didn't seem to have enough. I thought maybe coming off a so-so performance, but a win in that Brazil game, that the Eagles at home would get it together a little bit. Saquon Barkley had a huge ball game in week number 1.
Yep.
And early in the game, teams do make adjustments, obviously. And you have to credit the Falcons' defense with doing that because Barkley was just mowing through the Falcons in the early stages. And they did leave, I hate to say this, Lubie, they did leave a surefire 3 points on the board early in the ball game. The Philadelphia Eagles, when Sirianni went for a 4th and 3 from somewhere around the 10-yard line, or maybe even closer than that. And he might have been at the 3-yard line, and he went for the touchdown on 4th down instead. Through a terrible play. I mean, some of the plays they called in these situations were also a disaster, complete and unadulterated disaster. As they constantly had Hurts having to jog out of the pocket, going usually to his right, and then fire one of those desperation passes where he's got to let go of the ball, and there's no chance this guy is going to catch it. And they're both diving out of bounds. The defensive back is draped all over the receiver, and it ends up being inconsequential. Nothing, no chance of a completion. And that was the result of the play. So no shot. I mean, no little screen pass, no lining up some blockers, any kind of deception being involved. Just straight up drop back, get flushed out of the pocket, and throw some scrambling piece of shit to the right side. I had no vested interest in this game, just strictly a mind bet, and of course, a commitment I made on our Bury Your Bookie show, which I didn't. I'm not guaranteeing these wins. But I did suggest that if you were playing a game, I mean, how badly can you feel? If you were playing a game and you laid 6 with Philadelphia, how badly can you feel about making that recommendation? You lost.
You lost, but you had it. I don't know. Look, the NFL, I literally put in our title. I'm like, where parity reigns supreme, because you really, it's whether it's the Cole fact, what Cole said, where that first month you really don't know, whatever it is. It's hard to tell who's good right now. Like I want to give the Ravens credit, but they are 0-2, and they've had a tough schedule. I get it, but they are 0-2.
It only gets worse for the Ravens.
Yeah,
their next 3 games are brutal. They'll be lucky to win 2 of the 3 games that they have in the next 3 weeks. The Ravens. I actually ran into a Ravens fan right after that disgusting loss. And he was saying, "Oh my God, you see the schedule? The schedule's horrendous." I think they might have like the Bills.
Oh Jesus,
Chiefs. No, not the Chiefs, but
they play the Chiefs.
They have 3 like top teams that they're playing
the
next few weeks. So they better get it together. And Lamar Jackson doesn't look like he's off to any kind of a flying start this year. Anyway, that wrapped up a very curious week number 2
they can beat the Cowboys
of the National Football League. So far, I mean, the only thing that I guess you can you believe in the New Orleans Saints offense? They score in their first 15 possessions with Derek Carr. And a lot of other things going on, and there are many other sporting activities taking place. The baseball races, we have fallen out of it. The Marlins sitting there at 55 and 95, is that right? 55 and 95.
You really want to know? It just makes me sad. I saw it the other day because people keep saying, "Oh, they're playing much better." Sonny joked about like making a playoff run like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, "Whatever." And then so I looked by accident last week, and I saw. I'm like, what the fuck?
You became irrelevant in week 1. Unbelievable.
How is that a record?
A 6-month, arduous, long, and exhausting baseball season, and you're out of it after 2 weeks. That's not good representation of the idea that it's going to be worth your time to back the team and invest your money in season tickets. 55 and 95. How desperate? I mean, do they have any kind of boiler room operation? I know they're always soliciting people. I think Andy might have mentioned that he got a solicitation to buy season tickets to a Marlin game because he might have attended a game back in 1993. And anybody that went to a game in the inaugural season, I think, is on their hit list for people to call and see if you want to come back. And think about this, Lubie. What are we talking about now? 31 years later, you're being given nothing but dreck. That's crazy. 55 and 95, Louis. We're also sweating. We had a recommendation early in the year on a gambling show that we put together on No Filter. One of the Polyman's astute handicapping buddies had suggested that the Pirates over 75 and a half was a good proposition bet for the season. Pirates. Now, that one, you're getting your money's worth of entertainment out of.
Yeah.
Because the Pirates now sit at 71 and 79 after losing with Paul Skeens on the mound last night.
Oh, jeez.
Although Skeens, he sustained a loss, but I think he only gave up like one run in 5 or 6 innings. So he still was demonstrating his usual brilliance. And I think has the second lowest rookie earned run average. Is that in baseball history? That can't be, because earned run averages were much lower going back in the day of the dead baseball. But I mean, in like the last whatever, like a long period of time, he's got the second lowest rookie earned run average at like 2.07 or something like that. He's been brilliant. But they have to win 5 more games of their remaining 12, Lubie.
Oh,
wow. So they got to play a little bit better than they have been. Losing with Skeens last night, that looks very suspect. But that was not our pick. Our only thing that we had determined before the baseball season was that the Marlins under was going to be a marvelous play. And even if they won the remaining 15 games, they're still going to be 9 games under the total.
Yep.
Unbelievable, Lubie. And seemingly going nowhere. I don't know. Is there anything to get excited about with that down the stretch? I love the Marlin fans that remain dedicated. There are a couple of guys that I have as friends on Facebook, so I see their social media posts. But we know that Jimmy Ross was always going to be excited about whatever happened with the team. There's another guy goes by the tag Kai Jones. I don't know if you're friends with this guy.
Jimmy Ross, I don't see him all the time anymore, but
yeah,
friendly with him. Kai Jones, I don't know.
Constant, I mean, just positivity
about the
Marlins.
Okay.
Very Sarny-esque in that regard.
Okay.
So anyway, there's not much to be. What do they get? Sandy Alcantara back? What are they going to look like next year?
They will get him back. I think they do get.
I mean, what can you hang your hat on in terms of hope?
Then some of the young pieces they got play well. It's sad. I don't know anything about the team. I know here and there Sarny sends me blips, and then throughout social media I'll get little stats and things of that nature. I thought some of the young guys were playing decent. That's the only thing I guess they'll sell you on. I really don't know.
Can't. I was thinking about this, Lubie. I was thinking back to the day that we were out there, and this had to be only about 3 years ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
3 years ago, we're out there, and we're talking to Mike Hill, and he's got us all juiced up about Jazz Chisholm and Sixto. And what happened? I mean, Chisholm, you would have to say, what was a little bit of a disappointment overall as a Marlin player. Now he's lighting it up as a Yankee, making spectacular plays. He looks like Clete fucking Boyer at third base out there. This was a guy that was suspect in the field because they kept changing his position. And he's like Ken Caminiti. He's making all kinds of great plays, making the top 10 plays on a frequent basis, hitting the ball. He was hitting home runs. I don't know. He might have tailed off a little bit with the Yankees and making a difference in a Yankee push that now has them 3 games ahead of the Orioles in the American League East. So it looks like they go on and win that division in spite of the perceived and very real ineptitude of one Aaron Boone as a manager of the team. I don't know that. I mean, even with Juan Soto and Judge, were the expectations, the so-called expectations, that high for the Yankees that they would be championship caliber?
I guess I don't know. Weren't they? Garrett Cole's back,
and he hasn't been much of a factor.
You add to the lineup, and then the moves work out. It's not like Soto was a bust. Soto, it wasn't like Ellsbury. Like
no, they had a great season. Yeah.
Soto worked, and until the last month when Judge can't hit the side of a barn, Judge was on like Ruthian pace.
Yes.
And Stanton actually did contribute here and there, which is you're
for the 17 games that he was healthy. Yeah, he was. It was a big plus.
So yeah, I think the fans. We know the fans. I mean, then they got out to a big lead, and they were maintaining the lead for a lot of the year.
They're in a good position now. The Orioles have faded a little bit, and you have, about 2 weeks left in the season, and they're in a very favorable spot. The Mets and the Braves are in a dogfight for what would be the third wild card spot in the National League. and the Mets now have a one-game advantage after a walk-off last night. Lindor, it was feared that he may have an injury of some level of severity that might keep him out for a while. He has the MRI. Now, do MRIs, are they even remotely accurate, Lubie? Because my experience with MRIs in recent years, mostly this year, has been that it looks like everything lights up like a pinball machine when you get the MRI. Did I swallow something that was radioactive? I don't know, Lubie. Have you had MRIs in your lifetime on any injuries or anything?
No, I've had a CT scan because my heart does a weird thing sometimes.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it. I've never had an MRI. That you go into the tube? I've never had.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not involving like an upper part of your body, it's not really intimidating or anything. But going in there, if you're claustrophobic, probably isn't the greatest.
It seems weird.
It's the weird noises that the thing's making. It's resonating all over the place. And anyway, I mean, the first one when I had got misdiagnosis of the thing when they were going to chop off my toe, that was all based on a bad read of an MRI.
Oh, God.
So who knows, right? And then this other guy was going to do surgery on my Achilles, which is fine now, even though I did nothing. And he was ready to start hacking that thing based on what? Based on the results of an MRI. So can we trust this, Lubie, or is it just that the medical profession is badly misguided in reading the signs that come from
I used to, but
magnetic resonating?
If it was up to Mayo and me, you wouldn't have a toe and would have had Achilles.
I'd be in a cast right now.
Because I listen to anything a doctor says. So I agree with you. I don't know.
Anyway, so Lindor is only going to be out a couple of days. So that's good for Met fans who are very excited about the possibility. They had zero in terms of anticipation this year. They were thinking this year's a throwaway after they went all in last year. And sure enough, turned out to be a very exciting season for them. But it always bugged me. And now it really doesn't matter because it's irrelevant because the local newspapers, first of all, nobody gets them and reads them. And second of all, they don't cover this stuff anyway. But it always, in this town where, your team is out of it, they don't cover the sport anymore.
Yeah.
That was usually the way, right? I mean, when our hockey team was out of the playoff picture, you didn't get any hockey news at all. Like, wouldn't have mattered what was happening. Gretzky could score 300 goals. It was never mentioned. It was like an agate underneath the British soccer scores somewhere. But it was always that thing where you get detached because your local team is so bad that you haven't been paying any attention to the season, and then you miss out on all of this shit that's going on, which is, I'm in touch with it because they are baseball crazed in the New York Post, although they've already got, is Bill Belichick going to be replacing this guy? What do you think?
100%. Yeah,
Coach of the Giants?
I mean, look, that's the job he wanted. He loved coaching there. He's a Northeast guy. He's kept tabs with the Maras. He has a good relationship with the Maras. Dable, I still don't blame him. I like Dable as a coach. He tied himself to Daniel Jones. And as we see, once you tie yourself to a quarterback, it's either that quarterback succeeds or you both fail. And that's where we are with Dable and the Giants. I don't see how you can keep it. I mean, they're going to be a disaster. And you can't, it's 2 years of a disaster. Like, we want to get rid of McDaniel. At least he made the playoffs 2 years in a row. Like, at least there's hope. And we still, or by we, I mean me, have major doubts in Mike Daniel. As much as I like Dable, like, they barely made a playoffs that 1 year and was on the back of Barkley. They don't give him due respect. He's gone, and you're seeing last year disaster when he was hurt, and this year disaster. He's gone. And I would think Belichick seems to be itching to still coach. If he's gonna, it's gonna be there.
That's the word that has surfaced. I don't know, how much accuracy you would attribute to it, but supposedly, I mean, and you could see this being the case.
Yeah.
Although I don't know that Belichick isn't beating his chest every day and saying, I'm coming back.
No, he won't.
But that he wants to come back and coach, and that the team of choice that he would, absolutely covet the job would be the Giants.
I mean, they always talk about the Cowboys because he and Jerry Jones, as weird as it sounds, I think have a decent relationship. And it's a high-profile job, and it's the kind of thing, if you can win with Dallas, they now have a 1 in 30 years. It means a lot, but much like his mentor, like, I find it hard to believe that he's going to get along with Jerry Jones. Like,
seems like an instant, automatic clash, right?
I don't see that at
all. If Jimmy Johnson walked away from that job because he just couldn't stomach a guy he was like roommates with in college.
Yeah.
because of his just incessant interference. And yeah, that might be the place. But yeah, a lot of stuff going on all over the board. Unfortunately, baseball wise, it's not happening in this town, and there's a little rise for hope. I don't know that I would really be overwhelmingly optimistic about anything the Marlins were going to do next year.
I guess Sarney's not wrong. I forgot every single pitcher of theirs got hurt the first month. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they were supposed to be a really strong young pitching staff.
Yeah.
So I guess if you get all 5 starters back, I mean, that's something.
Biggest ability is availability, Lubie. We keep hearing that cliche, and the more I hear it, the more I'm buying it.
It's true.
If you're not out there, there really isn't much you can say. Luzardo was one of those guys, right? Was supposed to be very good. Got off to a decent start. Where's he lately? He's out there passing out autographed balls at his, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
Yeah.
Which, all right, we're going to come back with more. Anatomy of a bust. I think we have to get into that. Okay. Anatomy of a bust.
Okay.
In the next segment of the show.
Yeah,
we're using some old professional techniques here, seeing if we can't resurrect a little bit of the interest that we had in the past. We'll be back with more in a moment. Now that. Anatomy of a bust. Remind me about that, because I'll forget by the time we play the break. It's 8:33. Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist extraordinaire, with us here on 940 Wins, 1230 The Zone, and around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Now, you do a lot of podcasting, and you're very diverse in the things that you cover, including one with basketball star Kyrie Irving. You know, we picture Kyrie Irving lighting incense and chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. What was it like? I mean, the conversation with Kyrie Irving, especially in matters of astronomy.
Here's the thing with Kyrie Irving. So as you may know, and of course, if you knew that much about him, you would know that for a while there, he was a big fan of the flat earth. And so my response to that is, by the way, we care about Kyrie Irving because he's good at basketball. So people say, oh, you should not talk about a flat earth. And I'm saying, I don't care if Kyrie Irving wants a flat earth. He's a basketball player. There's plenty of jobs you can have in this world while you think Earth is flat. Just don't let the head of NASA be among them, right? Just you live in a free country. You should be able to say what you want. And so I wasn't as distracted as other people were. I don't get my science from Kyrie Irving, and I'm not going to get basketball lessons from the head of NASA, period. So that's how I look at it.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo, joined by Lubie, on The Defo Show.
See, Lubie, you can be very intelligent if you can make the most basic of distinctions, no? Neil deGrasse Tyson. He wouldn't take basketball lessons from the head of NASA, and he's not putting Kyrie Irving in charge of any rocket ships. All right. I was asking Dead or Alive on this because Sarney naturally is way ahead of the pace here and is wondering who's going to manage the Marlins in 2025. And you, of course, shrugged it off with an answer that is rooted in and has a deep foundation in truth, and that is doesn't make any fucking difference, right? You could dig up Miller Huggins.
Exactly. You're getting what's
Right.
that?
Give me Red Shane.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
Red, you want to take out the lefty?
Lasorda back in.
Tommy Lasorda would be great because at least he would keep them in the public eye somewhat, no matter
Exactly.
how bad they were. I mean, they could use a guy like that, a little bit of a clown prince type of guy. The answer I had right away, and I don't know if he was dead or alive, but he is alive, and I'm happy to hear that because he was always perceived to be a very good guy. Cookie Rojas. Would that not be the guy? It's turned into Cookmeister.
It's funny you always joke about it, but I just remember being young and going, "Why is he sending him?" Like, the ball would be in short, shallow left. It would be so-
I implied once that was another one of those Joe Philbin moments that I had with Cookie Rojas, who was a very likable, affable guy. And what was he? A longtime Philadelphia Philly. I think I had his baseball card, but with him, at second base, right up there. I mean, I had as many Cookie Rojas baseball cards as I did Joe Amalfitano,
Oh
the old
God.
second baseman from the San Francisco Giants. For some reason, every pack of gum had a Joe Amalfitano card in it. I would say in the early '60s, which was when I last was collecting baseball cards. Rojas, and I implied that he was dyslexic because of the number of guys that he was getting thrown out. I mean, he was right up there with Renee Latchman getting runners thrown out, not by like inches at home plate.
No, they get
Not where did he get the tag on him? But like 30 feet. Where you're standing there. How many times, Lubie, when you've been playing sports, have you realized that you're in no man's land?
Oh God.
And you're thinking, you're standing at the service line in the middle of a point in a tennis game, and I mean, the guy can hit the ball any fucking place on the court, and it's going by you.
Yeah.
You're in no man's land, right? And that's where these runners were with Cookie Rojas. So I implied that he was dyslexic, and then sure enough, like a short period of time after that, who would figure that these guys, that this stuff gets back to them? And I think he might have said something along the lines. I didn't really comprehend it 100% because his English was
He
not.
had a thick accent. He had a thick
Yeah.
his accent. Even when he spoke actually decent English, you wouldn't know. It was very thick. His accent.
Like it was easier to understand our Louis Tiant interview. Do you remember that?
Yes.
El Tiante.
I remember Vince Mama going. That was fun trying to figure out what the hell.
It would be easier to interview Shohei Ohtani without an interpreter.
Your Pacquiao interview was better.
By the time I had Roberta Duran on, even though my friend Charles J said, "Oh no, he speaks English. He'll speak English on the show."
He spoke English.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I would imagine he spoke less than 3 words of English, Roberta Duran, that night. One of the weirdest times, literally, Lubie, this was amazing because it was, circa mid-'80s, late '80s.
Okay.
And I have Roberto Duran in the studio for an hour. He's going to
Jeez.
supposedly do an interview in English. Fortunately, he brought a little entourage with him that a couple of the guys were able to interpret for me. I'm doing a call-in show with Roberto Duran,
Oh, Jesus.
and it ended up being a bilingual sports talk show on WIOD because the board was flooded. They had like 8 phone lines. There was never an open line for this guy, and everybody's asking the questions. And we had the interpreter, and it was great. It was like doing the old Mike Ranieri show where he said everything twice. So there was only half the time for the questions because you had to get the interpreter and the whole thing. So sandbagged on that. His accent was pretty thick, but I gathered that he was saying to me that he was rather unflattered by the remarks that I made about his potential dyslexia. Sonoma Beach, is that a beach in California? Sonoma Beach?
I don't know. I've never heard of that.
Because I think he was referencing that beach when he was talking to me. You son of a beach! That's not near Laguna? Sonova. All right. Anatomy of a bust, right?
Yes.
We're going to get to that. Anatomy
You
of a
wanted
bust.
to
Bryce
do that.
Young, benched now.
Oh God.
Bryce
That
Young
sucks, too.
benched.
Because what's funny is it wasn't like people had questions about both of them. Like they really did. Like people didn't know what to do with Young
Young and
or
C.J.
Stroud.
Stroud. Yeah.
It's not like that's why it was weird when they traded all that to get number one. It was like you're doing all that for Young because it's rare to trade all that for question marks like Luck, RG3. Look, RG3 ended up getting hurt, but he was really good that rookie year. He was offensive rookie of the year over Andrew Luck. He won a Heisman. He was this high flying new generation quarterback. Like Young and Stroud weren't that. Like there were major questions about both. Now it's funny, Stroud right now is considered one of the best quarterbacks in football already, and it already has a playoff victory under his belt. But like there was questions about both of them, and then for the Panthers to go all in like that on a guy that there's so much questions about, and they have their infrastructure sucks. Like that was the thing for the Texans. As much as they were bad that year, it was in large part because their quarterback lost his shit, became a disaster off the field, and then they had to start from scratch. It wasn't because they were, and a lot of that was they had built a decent team around Watson. They just, when he started having injury issues and off the field issues, it sort of set them back. That's why they were bad, but they had always had that was the problem with O'Brien was you looked at the Texans and there was like, they looked like they had the right team to win, and then they would always fall short. So they still had a very similar infrastructure. The guy from the Patriots, Casario, was their GM. So it was like, if they can just get the right quarterback, it feels like they can be good. That wasn't the case for the Panthers. It was a lot more than a cornerback they needed. And so it was like to go all
Maybe
in.
Starts at the top there, possibly, Lubie.
Yeah.
I mean, the owner's an asshole.
Temper sucks.
Of major proportions, disgrace to the National Football League. And I mean, maybe, I don't know, is it karma in that case? The biggest jerks sometimes have the greatest success. I mean, we know. Look at your boy Donnie, right? All right. So here's the deal. I mean, when you look at the anatomy of a bust, so Bryce Young goes to the bench in favor of Andy Dalton.
Jesus.
If you're in the Carolina Panthers organization, I don't know, would you not be better off just watching Bryce Young absorb his lumps? I mean, where are you going with Andy Dalton at quarterback? And even if you got somewhere with Andy Dalton at quarterback, what have you accomplished? Nothing, because you're not going to be able to continue selling the public that Andy Dalton, and look, how long has he been in the league? Probably like 20 fucking years, this guy. So give him all the credit in the world for being an NFL caliber quarterback who has had his modicum of success. There was a time there where he was considered one of the better QBs, no? Andy Dalton?
With the Bengals, I mean, I don't know if he was ever top 10, but he was definitely a starting quarterback that got a contract. Like
you had some faith in him if you were a Bengals fan.
Yes.
And, actually we're excited that he was doing things that were giving you hope, rise to hope that maybe you'd be a championship caliber team. So that's been in the distant past with Dalton, but are you in bad shape if you have him on your roster? I don't know what he looks like in today's NFL, Andy Dalton. When was the last time we actually saw him for any period of time?
I think he's been backup dude, but
I mean, he's been kind of like Colt McCoy, where he's still in the league, and you're going, "Holy shit, look at that, Chad Henne's still in the league."
Yes.
Then he comes in a game in a playoff situation and salvages a championship for the Kansas City Chiefs. So and you're thinking, "Whoa, okay," and it's nice to see that kind of veteran get his just due at the end of a career where he possibly, I mean, Chad Henne was very much maligned when he was here with the Miami Dolphins because he wasn't what we were hoping for. He wasn't Marino.
No.
And he was one of the first guys in there that people had given rise to hope for, and he just didn't measure up, unfortunately. Anyway, I mean, look what they gave up for Bryce Young. This turned out rather remarkable. Now, it seemed like a ridiculous haul to begin with, didn't it, Lubie? I mean, an insane price to pay.
Yep.
Because what happened, and this actually happened after the fact, that their number one pick in the ensuing season, which also went to the Bears, turned out to be the number one overall pick. Now, we don't know, and now the jury will be out on Caleb Williams for a while, but, potentially, and I'm not sure, I don't know what you make of the guy's first two games, so it didn't overwhelmingly impress anybody, but nonetheless, I mean, we've seen this guy. We know he has marvelous athletic skills. Can he accomplish that and translate those skills into being a solid professional? We'll see. But it's nice to have that chance, isn't it? Because you would have had no chance had you stayed with that pick and taken Bryce Young if you were the Chicago Bears. You would be dead in the water right now.
Yep.
And that's probably the direction they would have gone in. And so they gave up a 2023 first rounder, which turned out to be the 9th pick overall. That turned into offensive tackle Darnell Wright, who started 17 games as a rookie for the Chicago Bears last year, and I guess is well regarded. They got a second-round pick in 2023, and with that, they parlayed that into cornerback Tyreek Stevenson. All right, Tyreek Stevenson, who also started 16 games at corner for the Bears and now has a year's worth of experience. They got wide receiver DJ Moore, a very accomplished wide receiver who had 96 catches for him last year. And they rewarded him with a big fat contract extension, $110 million. So very happy with him. And then they end up with Caleb Williams as a starting quarterback starting this year, all for Bryce Young, who is now being replaced by Andy Dalton. A year and change into his tenure in the National Football League. Does that put him in the category? I don't know. If he doesn't bounce back and do something, is it a bigger bust than Jamarcus Russell?
You understand, Russell?
Tim Couch?
Russell, the bust that we have as the benchmark, started more games.
Is that right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was ugly. I mean, what convinced, Al Davis and the Raider organization were obsessed with quarterbacks.
Yes.
Did Russell look the part coming out of college, or was he that much of a nutbag that you wouldn't be willing to take a chance on him?
He's had a cannon. He had a cannon, and he was a big, strong dude, and he could move a little. So, and he like that bowl game, was it LSU versus Notre Dame or something, where he just fucking under Jimbo and Saban, like just annihilated them. So like he finished strong, did all the combines and all that crap, and he passed all those physical tests that was all they counted back then. Like now we know they do a lot more testing and they get really into the interviews. I don't know if they always did that. Like it feels like with Jeff George in that era, like if you were a big physical beast, that really is all they gave a shit about, and that was Russell. I mean, Russell really was. I don't know about the prototype, but
he looked like Dante Culpepper with even more mobility and a better arm.
Yes, that's what he felt like at the time.
And could have easily been a Josh Allen type of quarterback, but nonetheless, the silliness. I mean, it was Chris Washburn syndrome, right? When Washburn was drafted number 3 in the NBA. And people ignored the fact that he was a mental basket case. So just didn't really have it together you could have, people had those kind of inferences about and suggestions about your man, Jameis Winston, coming out of college. Was he mentally sharp enough to be an NFL quarterback? And at first you would have thought no. And then I don't know what happened. I saw an interview with him a couple of years ago. And the guy had gone through a metamorphosis. Seemed like he had really gotten it together. And, I became a Jameis believer. But unfortunately, his penchant for throwing the ball to the other team never really left him.
Well, that's the thing. Jameis was always a gunslinger. And that was his issue. It wasn't really that he was a child. Not child, I'm sorry. It wasn't that he was mentally incompetent. He was a child. He liked playing around. He liked messing around. He liked joking around. And he was a gunslinger. So that combination just sort of led him to falling short in the league. Russell was a lot like Michael Beasley, where he had all this talent. He just didn't give a shit about the game. And of all positions, quarterback, you have to love football. You have to, especially to be great at it. I mean, you have to really want to learn the game and practice and study and film.
Didn't they hand him like $100 million or something too?
He was one of the last big deals before they reset everything, and now we're back to big deals.
All right, so Bryce Young could be in that category. I don't know. He seems like a good, solid, humble human being. So to be so disparaging about a guy, I mean, to be labeled possibly the biggest busted quarterback of all time.
Yeah, he's up there.
But when you go into as we mentioned here, the title of this segment, The Anatomy of a Bust.
Yep.
There's a lot of anatomy there.
Well, there's a lot. I mean,
this team got 3 starters out of that deal, and 4 starters, I guess, if you include more, right? So you trade 4 starters for a guy who's not even going to play for you, who's being replaced by Andy Dalton, a 20-year journeyman in the National Football League, who you would, if you had said, hey, Andy Dalton, that's great. Did you see what he's doing? He's got 2 car dealerships. You would have thought, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You don't expect him to be starting for Carolina in week 3 of Bryce Young's second season when Bryce Young is perfectly healthy. And, where does that leave him? I don't know. Does he come back at some point? That'll be an interesting proposition. Anyway, the NFL week number 2 concludes, and it begins again 2 nights from tonight with the New York Jets and the New England Patriots, the surprisingly competitive New England Patriots, victorious in week number 1 over the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, and right there in a dogfight with the Seattle Seahawks, who some people believe are going to have a pretty good season this year. The Seahawks are they not 2-0? I believe they are 2-0. The Seahawks.
I think they won that. Yeah. I guess so.
They pulled that game out of the fire in overtime against the Patriots last week. Jets favored by 6.5 over what has been a very competitive New England Patriot team. Is that a generous enough allotment, Lubie, for you to believe? I don't know that the Jets were overwhelmingly convincing that this is it. Aaron Rodgers did orchestrate a scoring drive that was enough of a cushion to win the game. But, wow, I mean, Will Levis, is this guy – he's capable of some of the most bozoic plays. Have you seen this kid?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I saw
where he,
him.
laterals the ball backwards while he's on the ground. I mean, what the fuck? Just a disaster. So, I mean, that was maybe a little bit of luck element involved there because of Levis's penchant for turning the ball over. So the Jets favored by 6.5 Thursday night to begin it all. College ranks, have you thrown in the towel in a season, Lubie? FSU, that's it, right? I mean, they're irrelevant in terms of any postseason consideration. Could they make I
was hoping for a bowl. I mean, literally, that's what the season is hoping. I mean, 4 wins looks rough. 6 wins looks miraculous. So, yeah, I mean, I'll watch because I'm a glutton, but I don't have any expectation. I don't even know what. I'm literally just in awe of not only the way the season has gone, but Norvell is what was always good. What was good about Norvell up to this point, it's why I went from being a detractor to being all in, was his teams always got better. Like even in that 3-win season, middle of fucking COVID, you could see every week they got better. The 5-win season, the next season, every week they got better. Then the 10-win season where they started rough and then they reeled off 6 wins in a row. Every week they got better. Last year, when they didn't win by bigger margins every week, but that you could feel them growing to the point where they were able to finish strong even when Travis got hurt. Like that's my problem this year. And then in the past, he would be, even though he was the king of coach speak, he would be accountable. He early on, he's like, look, it's going to take time, to bring this, but we do have a standard here at Florida State. He was always good about saying that. Now he's being weird. Like we've all seen how Uiagalelei's played. I get you can't throw your players, let alone a quarterback you brought in under the bus, but you can be honest. You can say, look, we're not happy about what we've seen. There are some issues we need to work on. We're leaving all options. That's still coach speak, but at least lets you know, okay, the guy's not in fucking his head up his ass. That's not what he's doing. Like he's doing really like Mike McDaniel is shit. And that's why I don't like Mike McDaniel. I've grown to not like Mike McDaniel because it's like, dude, don't put the wool over our eyes. Like we can see what Uiagalelei may not be totally at fault. They're getting a lot of drops, but as we've learned, guys make plays for quarterbacks who are playing well. Guys miss plays for quarterbacks who aren't. So even though the drops aren't exactly quarterback's fault, when a team rallies around a quarterback, you magically see them make plays that they don't when they're not rallying around a quarterback. So to me, even if it's not definitively his fault, everything, it sort of is still. You could just see the way the offense, like the defense at least played better. I can't stand Adam Fuller. But Memphis is actually the best offense they've played, and they actually got him off the field. They didn't just march up and down the field and have the clock for 9 minutes. Like, they actually played better. So it's like, okay. The offense didn't. The offense looks lethargic. And he's an offensive guy. And the fact that he's not open to making changes, the depth chart came out, and he's going with him again. And that's my thing for the Panthers. It's like, look, if your season's a waste, go with the young guys and see. Either the young guys grow and get better, or they don't, but at least you leave yourself room for next year. When the veterans are playing badly, you do nothing. Playing Andy Dalton does nothing for the Carolina Panthers. Playing DJU for the Florida State Seminoles does nothing. It just is weird.
He's throwing those 2 hoppers to short that we used to see from Jared Goff that year where everybody gave up on Goff. And you're looking, I mean, a pass in the flat, and it bounces twice before it gets to the guy. I thought he would be good. I actually thought that if they were going to replace Jordan Travis, that ukulele was probably a good move. I thought he had come back a little bit after. I mean, he was brilliant that first year at Clemson, and then he ends up at Oregon State. Or was it Oregon State or Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State last year.
Oregon State. He went to
Oregon State. Yeah, and they had some offensive firepower last year with ukulele, and you thought that this would work out well for Florida State, but it hasn't. All right, so the 3 Florida schools, just real quickly here, coming up over the weekend, Lubie. Florida favored by 5. Should they be favored over anybody? Favored by 5 on the road against Mississippi State. How bad is Mississippi State? Do we have any idea?
No.
Or would you be inclined to go ahead and take the 5 points, thinking Florida's got an awful lot to establish before you're willing to lay 5 points with them on the road against anybody? Florida State is favored at home by a deuce over California, Lubie. So California in the cupcake category, you would have a hard time convincing people that Florida State should be favored over anybody, including you, with a very eloquent dissertation.
It's weird. I look, as much as I said all that, I'm still hoping against hope. The Norvell I like is still in there, and that if DJU struggles again, that he finally goes to the young kids. I don't know. I feel like this is the week they finally get a win. I mean, they have to win because next week they go on the road to SMU, and SMU is better than anyone they've played yet. So to go on the road to SMU, I don't presume that's going to be a win. And you can't go 0-5. 0-5 is the kind of territory where even guys who should have been in the playoffs last year can get fired. Like you go 0-5.
People start, holding up pictures of Ed Ogeron.
Yes,
when you go 0-5, yeah,
it's hard to not have major questions about a coach when you go 0-5. So I think they win this week. Florida, I would go near that. The fact that they're not even.
I don't know anything about Mississippi State. I've seen a couple of, at least, a reasonable sample size of the Florida Gators. They don't look too good. Miami favored by 17 now with Cam Ward as the favorite at plus 450.
I take USF.
To win the Heisman.
This is the first. I mean, I don't. They're just rolling up the score on bad teams, and I get it. Look, if you're a UM fan, bad teams versus bad teams were competitive, so you're happy to roll up the score against bad. I mean, they literally. I've never. I don't know if I've ever seen a start that like they have. You go to UF, even when you scheduled UF, they were bad. So you go to UF as you're at a conference game, but it's a horrible team. You play FAM. You follow up FAM with Ball State. You follow Ball State with USF. The funny thing is USF's actually game. USF actually, under this coach, is a different team. That's 2 years in a row. They almost beat Alabama. I think USF gives them trouble. If it was a 1 score, I would go UM. If it's 17, I get USF. I mean, it's at home at night. They've already sold out their student allotment. They're super geeked up. They're actually going to open up at all of Raymond James because they're really excited for this freaking game. Miami hasn't played anyone. They've played no one. USF actually hung in it with Alabama at Bama. I don't know if they necessarily win, but 3 scores, 17 points, I would go with USF, man. Like UM hasn't proven anything to me.
More than fair, Lubie. As you are unsure about the Florida game, would probably lay the deuce with Florida State and taking the points in the Miami game. How long is Quinn Ewers going to be out? He went from being among the favorites to win the Heisman to 22-1. Now, Arch Manning came in there and was brilliant for Texas, which looks like a runaway number 1 team, and they were installed as a number 1 team over Georgia after their struggles with Kentucky. Yeah. Cam Ward is the favorite at plus 450 to win the Heisman right now. Jalen Milroe and Jason Dart of Mississippi are second choice at plus 600.
Oh, Jackson Dart.
And then Jackson Dart, yeah, I couldn't see that. Dylan Gabriel, Oregon. 9-1. So Cam Ward, I mean, a solid favorite to win the Heisman Trophy based on.
Well, their schedule's weak, and they have definitely shown the ability to throw the ball around and play good defense against weak competition, and that's what they're going to play all year. So I think he'll be in it. I just don't know if they're going to win enough big games. I mean, like, there's no games on that schedule where you're going to be like, oh, what a victory. Like literally, even if they do beat a Louisville. I mean, like, are you fucking kidding me? Even if they beat Florida State at this point, I mean, Florida State's not a big win. Like the other guys you said all play tough games where if they do get that signature, like the signature victory, the signature play is a big thing with a Heisman. I don't see any of that for Ward. Like I just don't.
That'll catapult them into it. All right, very good, Lubie. A lot of fun today. Tomorrow we go old school, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Always a great place. with the great Tony Segreto, who's enjoying the cozy confines of Vermont up there. That's got to be brilliant at this time of the year, no?
Yep.
I mean, for as harsh as the winters would be this time of the year in that sort of place, do I get there before I check out? I mean, do I do one of those? I was thinking the other day about what happened to the Four Seasons. I'm not talking about the singing group. I'm talking about like winter, spring, summer, and fall.
Yeah.
And fall was always like a cool time. You catch a little bit of this atmosphere when you see like ESPN Game Day or something. Is that our only relation to the change of seasons, Lubie?
I mean, I'm going up to New York the end of September.
Very
I'm
nice.
hoping it's becoming. I mean, you live there. You tell me. I've never been.
All the leaves were brown. Oh, that's California.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's fall-ish things. Other than that, I agree. I've never seen fall. Like I've never.
Oh yeah, never. Okay. Well, you'll enjoy it, Lubie. I think.
I hope.
Leaves dropping on your head instead of iguanas. It's great. We have to run. We'll see you from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market.
Yes.
Gene always puts on, it's amazing. We go to a lot of great restaurants on the Mike Mayo tour.
Yes.
And they're all brilliant. I mean, they really are. It's amazing, the kind of food that we're getting for lunch there, Louie. A hell of a concept. But Delaware, not even a restaurant, I mean, is right there with him, with this guy, Gene, cooking up the fresh stuff that they have there. It's fantastic. So we'll be there later on today, 1 o'clock. I can catch it on South Florida Live and Let's Eat South Florida.
Yes.
Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. The Lunchbox. All right, Lubie, I will see you there. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate the comments on the chat line. It's always a lot of fun to go through as well. And we'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.